Welcome back, everybody. Sujit Patel here of Mailshake. I've got Steve Woods from Nudge.ai. I'm really excited. Actually, I'm going to be passing this off early to my team just to make sure we're doing this. The topic's on how to use perfect data to identify and generate referral opportunities. So, Steve, thank you for joining. Maybe you can
Thanks
give
for having
everybody
me.
a background on yourself.
Sure. Thank you for having me on the show. Great to chat again. So, as mentioned, my name is Steve Woods with Nudge.ai. We're focused on B2B selling. So we're a sales platform that really looks into your communications and brings the data to life. And happy to talk today about how we can turn that into referral opportunities for your business.
Awesome. So first and foremost, a really basic question, like what is a past customer champion, and how do you kind of why is that the thing to focus on?
Sure. So the what is kind of obvious, right? It's sort of a person who has used your product, used your service in the past. They went deep on it. They love it. They had a great experience. They know the ins and outs. And that person is ready to be a champion for you again. Now they've moved on to another job. They've changed jobs for a variety of reasons. People change jobs every, call it 2 to 3 years. They're out there somewhere. And if you can identify that person, if you can get back in touch with them, if you can activate that champion, they are very likely to say, you know what, that was fantastic in the past. You're right. We should bring that into my new gig, and it could deliver the same level of benefit for me. So in today's noisy world where it's very hard to get into an opportunity, being able to identify and activate those past customer champions rather than have them just kind of drift away is a tremendous opportunity, arguably one of the best opportunities to getting into new deals, new opportunities, and new revenue.
Yeah, it makes sense completely. So I guess, how do you identify these folks?
So that's one of the things we've really been focusing on here at Nudge for a long time. One of the big challenges, and there's two main challenges. One of the challenges is understanding who has the relationship with the champion. This gets interesting, right? Because we think of new revenue from a sales perspective. New revenue equals sales. Salespeople are the owners of those relationships. That breaks down when you're talking about customer champions. Generally, the good relationships they have, they're with a customer success org or a services org. So you need to map all of those relationships with your current customer champions. And then the second part of the challenge is you need to be able to understand where those people have moved on to. People change jobs, and usually at that point, if you think about a lot of our CRM systems, they track an email address, right? That's a human. And so that person changes jobs, that email address is no longer valid, they're gone. So what Nudge has done with our data model is really build an understanding of the human and understand, okay, when that person changes from Acme Co to Widget Co, it's the same human. The relationships, that trust that they've built up with Johnny or Sally in your service organization, that trust is still there. You just need to understand that that person who has now got a new email address at their second job, that's the same human. And if you reach out to them, that relationship still holds. So a lot of the challenge is leveraging a lot of the underlying AI that Nudge has built to understand that model of people as they go throughout jobs and know that that's the same person that it was at the past job that they held.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. That's awesome that you guys can kind of proactively provide that information, or being able to have that without looking for it, right? I think the hard part is yes, with effort, you can go and do this, but with any good opportunity, if the opportunity is in front of you versus you have to identify it and then go back and do all this work, you can just go focus on seizing the opportunity instead of trying to make the opportunity present itself, or whatnot.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's a needle in a haystack problem. The needles are valuable, but if you have to go through the entire haystack to find them, most accounts are not going to have a past customer champion app. You're not going to start with the account list and then go looking. You're going to find so few that they're not valuable. You got to start the other way around and say, here were the customer champions we have had. Now where are they? Oh, that's interesting. Here's one of our target accounts. Let's activate that champion. It's got to go data up rather than target account list down.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. So really, it sounds like it's really about relationships, right? But how do you turn that into revenue?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's interesting there is you've got to take that data, you got to take that understanding of the relationships, that understanding of who was a champion from all the metrics that you would have internally, and then you've got to go and map that against the people that have changed jobs, as we talked about, and then figure out, obviously company fit matters. If they've changed and decided that they're going to take a career as an artist or a sculptor, probably not a good fit, not a customer champion that you care to activate. So you're going to map that against your target account list. And then, and here's where it's sort of a coordination effort between marketing and sales, that target account list is owned by sales. The relationship with the customer champion is owned by somebody in customer success or service. So there's a coordination effort there to say, okay, I'm in sales, here's my target account list. The data has shown me that at this account, you know somebody where they were a past customer champion and you've got a great relationship with them. So now the sales team and the services team can coordinate and figure out, okay, how do we get into that account? How do we open up the conversation? How do we understand their history with us and what they gravitated to so that we can get our way in there?
Yeah, it makes sense. So being proactive. So really, um, it sounds like it's. I was going to ask you like who owns this? Who is it? Is this marketing? Because success, is it salesperson? I guess it seems like a team effort. Is that right, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that the nuance there that's really worth understanding is each of the groups owns a different part of that relationship, right? The sales team has the enthusiasm to get the deal done, right? They're after the revenue, they're after the quota, they own that target account list. The person in customer success, well, they know the history, they know the nuance. Who is that individual as a person, as a user? What did they like? What did they not like? What did they do? Where are they trying to go? And that combination is key. You've got to have that sales service coordination to say, okay, we're going to reach out to this person. From a sales perspective, I want the deal at that new account. From a relationship perspective, how would our solution make that person's career trajectory go better given what we know, given who they are, given what we learned about them in the past? And if you can put that together between sales and service, then you've got a great opening to the conversation. It's not just, hey, want to buy stuff. It's, hey, last time you were here and you were struggling with these things and working on these major projects and super passionate about this, now you're in a bigger organization. Let's take that vision one step further and pick up where we left off. So you need both sales and service in that ownership role for the relationship.
Okay, that completely makes sense. Going back to the champion, the customer champion, they're at a new role. They've championed obviously a good deal, a customer to your business in the past. How do you get them to be the champion internally? Like, are they? I guess like first question: are they the decision maker?
They're usually not. I think the honest answer is they're usually not the final decision maker. If you look at the pattern that makes a customer champion, this is a frontline individual, whatever your service offering or product is. They're the person who was in the weeds with your product day in and day out and doing that thing, right? So you made their life better. In lots of cases, you made their career better. They became the person who was known for that thing that your product delivered. And so their career has moved along with their usage of the product. And that's what brought that depth to the relationship. Usually that doesn't mean they're the final decision maker. Maybe they've sort of moved up a couple of notches and they've become the final decision maker, but that's not as common. So really what you're looking for there is understanding what they did to become that person at the organization and how you can help make them that person V2 at the new organization. So they're going to be involved in a dynamic with their boss, who's probably the final decision maker, and you need to start the conversation really with that in mind. How do we make you that same kind of legendary individual that we did before within a new environment with a new boss. Tell me about your world, tell me about where you're going, and tell me how we take the narrative that we started to build with you and move it further in this new place.
Gotcha. And just kind of nuts and bolts here. Do you reach out when they've moved recently? You wait for them to settle in? I guess, like, what's a good starting point to reach out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say your best bet is a little after they've moved. You know, give them a chance to understand the landscape, figure out how to navigate internally, figure out what those nuances and dynamics of the organization are. Every organization is different, right? And if your view on this customer champion is we are going to help build the story of them, build the career of them, but now with a new landscape, you've got to give them time to understand what that is. So call it, 90 days to 6 months. Give them a chance to kind of get their feet on the ground, know who the people are, know who the players are, know a little bit more about those players' motivations, and then you can re-engage in the conversation and say, okay, how do we fit into that story?
Gotcha. And then in terms of like documenting, keeping that champion, again, I'm just kind of thinking about implementation. I'm a salesperson. I want to do this at my company. What's the best way to like document that these are the champions that I've had? Or is that through the CRM? Is that putting that in Nudge? I guess, how does that kind of work together?
Yeah, I mean, one thing we've learned at Nudge over a long time trying this is salespeople work within the CRM system, right? So regardless of where the data is ultimately coming from, you got to get it into the CRM system. That's really sort of how we tend to operate. Coming back to your earlier point that this is sort of a needle in the haystack data up play, it's got to be much more sort of data oriented, right? So it's not start with your list of accounts and there's a customer champion at each one, but when you have a target account you're going after, make that existence of a customer champion a flag on that account, right? Bing, there's something here. You're not going to see that on every account. You're going to see that on 1 in 100. But when you do, that is the best path in. So it's much more go about your normal day, but when you notice that at an account, then you take a different path. You go down to the services org and you figure out how we're going to crack in. Because if your opposite approach is I'm going to do the regular BDR, SDR thing and launch an email campaign, we know how effective that is. That's a very, very challenging way to get into a new account. When you see that flag there and say, we got a different path in, that's when you exploit that path. Or I've seen it done the other way where, once a quarter, you look through and say, given all the accounts that we would like to get into, given all the customer champions that are out there and may have moved, is there a set of customer champions we can go after? Oh, look, there's 16 accounts we can go after with this process. Let's go after all 16 at once. But you really need to make the data speak either in that sort of flag on an account way or in the here's 16 accounts to go after way.
Got it. And this is really you could do this on some interval timing, like quarterly, monthly, weekly,
Yeah.
and then it sounds like that would be then the sales leader or someone that starts that initiatives, and then who implements it or who's doing it might change, right?
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, people change jobs frequently, but not that frequently. You're gonna look at doing this maybe quarterly. Seems like about the right cadence from what we've seen. You try and do it more regularly than that, you're just not gonna turn up that much data. Obviously, depending on the size of your customer base, etc. But when you do that, it's a coordinated effort. You've got to get the leadership of sales and customer success to say, you know what, we believe in this. A, we're going to make customer champions. B, we're going to do what we can to make sure those relationships are maximized when they are existing customers. C, we're going to go look for them, and we're going to reactivate those customer champions as they move out in the world, and we're going to make them passionate advocates for the thing that we do by making them wildly successful at the thing that they do, which is their career.
I love it. That's awesome. It sounds like this is just low-hanging fruit, right? This is just easy revenue, really, to me.
I think it is. If you focus as an organization on really delivering something, right? Find out what it is that you do and just be phenomenally good at delivering that. And then take a step back and say, okay, well, if we're delivering that, whose careers are we changing? Who was not good at doing something before? Then we put a tool in front of them, and now they're the person that everyone turns to for answers and solutions in that area. Well, now you've made a difference in their career. You've moved them forward and you've made them into something that they weren't before. And that's the kind of career narrative that people like, that people enjoy, that gets people up in the morning going to work. And if you can turn your solution into that, then you're on the path to making customer champions. And then all you need to do is find them and activate them, and it becomes a revenue source for you.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Thank you, Steve. This has been awesome. I love this. I've slacked already my team. I'm like, hey, this is just low hanging fruit. We got to do this quarterly. So I'll keep you posted on how this works out. So thank you again for joining. This is, again, for everyone listening, this is just easy revenue. We've already talked about, like, your best customers, your best source of new business is coming from your existing customer pool, expansion opportunities, but this is just one more kind of opportunity. Steve, where can people kind of go learn more?
Nudge.ai. Start with the web is always the best path. We have lots of information there on how this is done and how to approach it, and we'd be glad to chat with anyone who wants deeper information.
Awesome. Thanks again, Steve. Take care.
Thank you so much.